Hello everyone, my name is Nathan and today it's time for another episode of Oxygen Not Included. In between the episodes I've received a lot of your feedback and reconsidered a couple of systems. Just very briefly, I completed the hydrogen generator room. I also took all the hydrogen we've already collected upstairs and processed it for power. I also disabled the power control stations. They were actually functioning and my operator was kind of taking care of that. However, we don't technically have a renewable source of refined metal just yet, so I decided to shut them off. We have enough power this way anyways. Another thing I took care of is actually this station right here. I reconsidered how I want to do my water cooling loop. And this is the new system that actually gives me 20 degrees water exactly, or almost exactly. What we were missing in our previous design, cooling down the liquid, is a tank in order to level out all the temperatures. So right now, as you can see, the fresh germ-free water is coming into the tank and it is directly going out into a thermosensor that is in front of a shutoff. Currently the temperature is 30 degrees. If the liquid is below 20 degrees, it's gonna go through the shutoff and it's gonna go into my fresh water tank. However, if it is still too hot, it's gonna bypass the liquid shutoff and it's gonna go through the cooling loop. I'm then bridging back here and I'm just giving this a little more space. So this snaky stuff is just to give more packets access to this loop. I'm then going back in here and I intentionally set a bridge so the new liquid doesn't have priority. Always the liquid in the loop has the priority to go back into the tank and lowering the temperature. So if we just check this out, maybe at a higher speed, we're coming in at 30 degrees and then we're coming over here at 25 degrees. We're going back into the loop. You can see this water is now waiting. And if we check out the tank, we can see currently we are at 22 degrees and it's sinking whenever we have stuff going through the cooling loop. Now the liquid in the tank went below the 20 degrees mark, so the liquid shutoff is going to be turned on, and since we have this loop going on, all the water we had in the tank is going to go through the shutoff into our water storage area. So just to be sure, the output here is around 19.5 degrees or so, which is close enough to the 20 degrees, and it's now actually doing that on a regular basis. So what we can see here is the water cooling down again and we will not be ending up with the 25 degrees. Another thing I completely revised is the cooling loop for my refinery. So currently we have a liquid tank in which we store about 1000 kilograms of oil. First of all, the output of the refinery is gonna bridge over here and go directly into the tank. This again is important to equalize all the temperatures. So if we have a packet of 200 degrees and one of 100 degrees, they're gonna equalize to 150 degrees. Equalize is probably not the right word, but you know what I mean. So technically our starting point is the liquid tank. The oil is exiting it at a certain temperature. If it is above 160 degrees, it's going to go into the cooling loop, so sending a green signal to the shutoff. If it is below the 160 degrees, it's going to bypass that and go directly back into the refinery to use for another craft. The oil that is too hot, of course, is going to go into the cooling loop and then go directly back into the tank, averaging out the temperatures again, and hopefully at some point we're gonna be below 160 degrees to use for the refinery. This way I can actually make sure there's always something in the refinery itself, even if we do a couple of crafts one after another. The last thing I want to address is my system for the thermo aqua tuners. Now, there is a way easier thing to do, and I just didn't know that. So what we can actually do, checking the automation overlay, we can turn on and off the aqua tuners. So we could say whenever we have something that is already at a low temperature, we don't want to send it through the aqua tuner, so we're sending a red signal and it's just going to bypass it. It's so easy. So I think what I want to do is shut this off for the time being, and we're just going to let the rest of the polluted water flow through. And now that we got rid of everything, I think we can just take this apart and redo this in a much easier way. I mean, I'm glad you told me about that. Even though you acted like this knowledge comes out of people's butts. Just kidding. Anyways, we're gonna have a bunch of people's getting scolded. What can I say? Liquid shut off, deconstruct. We're also gonna pick up everything again before we get things started. And we're gonna have to send a bunch of people to bed. That's how it goes. So technically all we have to do is hook up each of these thermosensors to their respective aqua tuners. We can take apart the other wire though. So let's think about this properly. We're going from the sensor into the first Aqua tuner. If the liquid is high temperature, it's going to go through the Aqua tuner into the next sensor. And if that is a high temperature, it's going to go through the Aqua tuner again and then loop back. However, if the temperature is already low enough, then we want to bypass the Aqua tuner because it is shut off. It's going to go into another direction, the liquid, and then we can go directly into here, I would say. However, we want to make sure the liquid is only flowing into one direction, so we're going to do that with a bridge. It's all going to flow into this next sensor. If the liquid is cool enough at this point, then we want to bypass this as well, and we can go ahead, use another bridge in order to connect up with the next slot. This way everything should be meeting up here, and we can simply reconnect this in order to put back into our cooling tank. Okay, I'm gonna wait for this to get built. We're probably gonna clean up the floor as well. Let's actually do that right away. Ooh, okay, it looks like the sour gas made its way upstairs. Oh my gosh, how is it even looking down there? We're actually slowly cooling stuff down. Look at that, a lot of the water has already liquefied. Oh guys, I'm sorry I'm sending you back into that steam room every day. But this time it's gonna be the final system, I promise you. I think we're done. Yes, okay, let's test it out. We're gonna connect this and okay, this should still be -5 degrees and this should be -5 degrees because then we're gonna send a green signal. Is the automation wire also hooked up? Okay, yes, let's do it. Let's see. Honestly, the piping is much easier this way, but that's the beauty of this game. There are many possibilities in how you can achieve something. Hello, this is Editing Nathan with the first intervention in this video. I was at the playground with my son looking at a fountain and at some point it occurred to me that I did something wrong. I essentially still have the same thing going on, except that I'm bypassing the Aqua tuner upwards and bridging down into the loop that's going back directly instead of sending this through the next sensor because we already have it at the temperature we wanted. It's no use to send it to the next Aqua tuner. Same thing with the next Aqua tuner. If it comes out already cold enough in the first Aqua tuner, it's gonna bypass the second one and gonna go back directly into the loop. And this way we're actually processing all of the packets. You can see all of the packets in the first Aqua tuner are directly going through. Yeah, we're still scolding a little bit. Let's continue with the episode. Another thing that isn't really necessary is this Atmos sensor, since we are now using the output of the steam engine in order to resupply this room again. Especially now, with all the rebuilding, some of the polluted water fell in here and obviously we now have a little bit too much steam in the room. So we might even consider transporting some water out of there. But so far so good, we're now effectively cooling down this tank again. Okay, I think that has been it for the changes. Of course, I also expanded my cooling loop here so that we have nice and cold hydrogen generators. But with that out of the way, we're ready to tackle the next project. Alright, it is now a couple of cycles later. What I actually finished is this room, and it took me an incredible long time because I didn't realize a few things, but I also did this room. So now instead of the planter box we have a natural tile, so I don't have to supply the Wheezeworts with anything and they're always gonna do their job. So I transported my pip over there, planted the seeds. The same thing here in this room. Now I spread them out in a way so we can plant as many as possible, which is 6 free Wheezeworts. However, I would prefer my duplicants not having to go in there. The main reason for that is I added a high pressure gas vent that is going to allow me to add 20 kilograms of hydrogen per tile, therefore adding a lot more thermal capacity to this room. I'm getting the hydrogen from all the way over here, so essentially my electrolyzer setup is supplying this room at the moment. The last thing I did in these cycles is I built the tube all the way upstairs. Right here we actually have a chlorine vent, and the other vent I found is the steam vent right there. Let me actually have a look into the research. Isn't there something that could help us out with the mining procedures? Ah, right there. Solid transport. It's finally time we get into this. And I want the robo miner. This is gonna help us a lot, just excavating huge amounts of terrain without really having to put in a lot of work. Oh, one last thing I actually did is add this liquid shutoff right here. This is preventing new water from going into the cooling loop if my water storage area is already full. So on the top here I have a hydro sensor, and if we are getting close to the limit of the top, we are sending a signal all the way over here to this liquid shutoff, and no new liquid is going to enter the cooling loop. We want to do that so this pipe here doesn't get full, because if it is full, the stuff in the cooling loop is just gonna cool down more and more and more. Now, if our system is full, no new liquid is gonna enter the cooling loop. This is a pretty good failsafe. You know, at this point we have so much oxygen, so much food, I think it's time to add another duplicant. I want stuff to be done even quicker. By the way, temperature-wise, we are doing brilliantly at the moment. I think this is looking really good. One thing that might be handy to know is, by the way, you can place these tiles, you can judge what type of geyser this could be. So this is also the same type we already found, like right here I can do the same shape. It is a 4x2 area where I can't place the tiles. So maybe let's go and figure out what this actually is. I'm gonna dig up just one tiny little piece in order to see what it is. It is a carbon dioxide vent. Holy cow. Okay, let's dig that up. I'm actually gonna do that at a high priority and then we're gonna research it right away. Analyze, high priority, and then we're gonna close it off until we know what we want to do with it. Beautiful. Analysis is done. We can close this off as soon as possible. Priority 6. And we also got the new printable. We have Turner here building and digging. He's got a couple of bad traits, but well, Binge Eater isn't that good. But I think I can keep his stress level down, otherwise he's gonna just eat all the excess food. So you're gonna be another builder. Welcome to the tribe. You are actually good in the first schedule here. There's no dedicated builder. Well, we have the researcher that is kind of a dedicated builder. I'm gonna give him the same priority as Ellie and Hassan. So let me just quickly do that. Actually easy. Building, digging 2 up and attacking 1 up. Everything else at the default we already have. You're also gonna get your hard digging skill. Congratulations. Just for shits and giggles, we're also gonna add the wallpaper to all the bedrooms. I'm gonna make it out of granite for an extra plus 20% decor. I just can't believe they would do that. These guys. By the way, research is completed, which means we now have access to the Robo Miner. Let's see. This has, wow, okay, this has a nice range. So what we possibly would want to do is set one up every now and then, like so. We're gonna make sure to build some tiles beneath them. And then all we need to do is bring over the power. That should be good. Not sure if that is really gonna save me a lot of time, but I'm willing to try it out. I decided to move my carbon skimmer all the way over here so we can have kind of a little waste disposal room. I'm also transferring the carbon dioxide down here at the moment. So everything coming from my natural gas generators is just going down and then we get rid of it for the time being. Eventually, of course, and that has been mentioned in the comment section, we want to feed this to slicksters. But that's a topic for another day. Dude, we have so much oxygen at our disposal. I wonder, the condensation point is minus 48 degrees. Couldn't we just liquefy this thing? Ooh, petroleum I can get to minus 57 degrees, while oil I can only get to minus 40 degrees. So if we get petroleum cool enough, minus 57 degrees, then we could go ahead and liquefy the wait. Minus 183 degrees? Okay, I read this wrong. Yeah, I looked at carbon dioxide before. Holy cow, can we liquefy carbon dioxide? So liquid, I mean there is a lot of liquid. Let me actually go ahead and do some research about that. I want to know in the pre-space era what kind of stuff we could do. Oh guys, I found my next little project. Hello, this is Editing Nathan. A little spoiler warning for the next couple of minutes. I'm going after a project I can technically not do yet, and it's just because I didn't read the hint on the freaking nullifier. It can only cool down things to minus 171 degrees, and well... Since I spent a couple of cycles on that project, I'm still gonna try to kind of summarize my journey to that, but just know that I'm gonna be heavily disappointed. Have fun. So I just checked out the liquids. The best thing I can handle at the moment is liquid oxygen, and I decided we're gonna use the anti-entropy thermal nullifier in order to achieve that. All we have to do is feed this with hydrogen and it is gonna cool the surrounding gases. I decided to go with ceramic tiles because I want to keep as much of the cold in there as possible. So essentially my plan is to fill this room up with hydrogen, and we're gonna divide this. Actually, there's gonna be a mechanized airlock and we're gonna use the steel material for optimal conductivity. This room filled up with hydrogen and this room filled up with oxygen that we're hopefully gonna liquefy, so it's gonna land on the floor. Why a mechanized airlock? Well, let me explain you. If we take metal tiles actually, and we are also gonna build these out of steel, something like that. If we then open up the mechanized airlock, there's gonna be a vacuum in there and no heat transfer is gonna be possible. But as soon as we close this, we can transfer coolness or heat over into the other room, and therefore we can keep kind of a precise temperature, or an exactly precise temperature. But we don't want to close this off just yet. I need to pump out the carbon dioxide we currently have in the room. Said and done, we're pumping out this room. Now let's imagine we will not be able to enter this room anymore once we set everything up. So we might want to place a radiant liquid and gas pipe in each tile, so later on we can just go ahead and do our cooling loops as required. I'm gonna need a lot more steel. Let's do 10 crafts. I need to observe stuff. Let's not go crazy. Nice, we're actually done pumping out the entire area, so we can deconstruct our pumps again. First of all, we're going to have some metal tiles here, and that leaves us a space for a sensor on this side. It's gonna be a thermo sensor right there. The sensor, of course, is gonna steer the door, determine when we need to transfer more chill. We're not just waiting for the steel production, which is ongoing. We're also gonna need a space for a gas vent. Let's make that out of gold amalgam, just because we can. Gonna make a second gas pipeline for the oxygen that we're eventually gonna bring down here. Ooh, looks like our cooling system is at full capacity. Ooh, that is actually a hot temperature. That is because we are crafting so much steel that heats up the oil extremely quickly. I think I'm gonna give this a little bit of time just crafting nothing, otherwise our steam turbine is gonna explode. Oh, hold on. Thermal conductivity of tungsten is actually a little bit better. The heat capacity isn't that good, but I think we could profit more with the thermal conductivity. So I'm gonna make these tiles out of tungsten instead. 38 degrees in this room is actually pretty low. Currently we have 2 radiant pipes. Maybe we could just get away with 1. So what we're gonna do is connect this, and I can probably take apart the rest. Now we're gonna just have 1 radiant pipe right there, and that should still be enough to cool down the steam turbine. Right, it's time to fill this room up with the hydrogen. That's gonna take long enough, so we can get this started, I think. All we have to do is connect this. Oxygen minus 183. Okay, so let's do minus 185 for instance. If it is below that temperature, we want to send a green signal so it doesn't cool anymore. And if it goes above that temperature, it's gonna send a red signal and shut the door, therefore transferring the chill. And we can already see we are getting hydrogen right here, and it's already cooling down quite at an efficient rate. This thing, the nullifier, is just crazy. Gas pump, insulated pipes, and we're just gonna bring this down for the time being. Everything that's not oxygen can go down below, and everything that is oxygen is gonna join up with this pipe. Okay, it has actually started. Let's connect these pipes and see the oxygen flow. Yes. There, everything fixed and good. Look at that. Those tiles are already minus 90 degrees. That's just amazing. Let's connect these pipes again. Oh yeah. Cool down, cool down. I just love systems like this. This was definitely not the most pressing thing that we needed to build, but it is pretty cool, you have to admit. Okay, the room is actually already full of oxygen, so now we just need to wait for it to cool down enough. Though as long as we're still pumping in hot hydrogen, this is gonna be difficult to achieve. Alright, it is now actually the next day. I managed to pump this full of hydrogen, 20 kilograms of hydrogen. However, 2 things I wanna show you just very briefly. I swapped around a couple of things here. What you can actually do is bridge the polluted water into your cooling loop, and this is gonna allow the cooling loop to always run. But as soon as you expand the cooling loop, there's gonna be new polluted water coming in. So you have the best of both worlds, an always running loop and an always full loop. Great hint there, thank you very much. Sometimes it's hard to think of all these little details and tricks you can do, even though I already applied the strategy to other things. Another consideration I'm gonna take, since we are bringing the water we are extracting from the room directly back into the room, it means we're never gonna be at a loss. So instead of having the liquid vent here, I would probably just place it there, put the pipe there in order to let the water drop directly back down. And this is gonna allow us to have a little more space. For instance, we could take the liquid reservoir and put it here at the very end. This would then prevent the heat from the actual fluid we have to seep out into, our rooms. Would make everything a little more compact, and we still technically have the space to do a little cool down loop. And since we're going back into the liquid reservoir right away, the cooling loop is also very short and can be effective. Okay, good, and that's sorted as well. How far are we here? Minus 55 degrees. I guess we're gonna have to wait a little longer. Actually, it goes quicker than I thought. Okay, let's just be patient a little bit. That reminds me, there's a fact about these plants I forgot to mention. If you plant them naturally, like this, using the pips, they are only 1/4 as strong as if you have them planted and fertilized with phosphorite. So it's really worth thinking about in which situations you want to use them. For instance, in the battery room, it makes total sense because even if they are planted on a natural tile, they will be able to cool down 6 batteries, and that's exactly the situation we have going on here. So we will always have a nice cozy steady temperature in this room. If I had this one planted in a planter box, I would be able to get away just cooling the entire room with 1 Wheezewort. However, this way I'm not using up my phosphorite, which is limited. I guess we could go ahead and set up a ranch to farm it, but I haven't really looked into that just yet. Also, maybe you've seen it, I added a bunch of diamond temp shift plates in the oxygen room, and I'm also thinking about making this room a little smaller, so we get a tiny bit more space for the oxygen room. Slowly but surely we're also gonna have an oil problem. We're gonna have to expand in the oil biome, or maybe even tap into an oil reservoir. Reach cycle 365, holy cow. But that's another aspect I enjoy about the game. Only in the beginning you have to think about how quickly you have to set things up. Now that we are cooling the base, we are producing the oxygen, we're taking care of things, we can take our sweet time and build awesome projects. Another thing you suggested that we could have done, instead of bringing the water all the way over here, taking the polluted water from the sink, we could have used a hand sanitizer instead. Now this thing is not gonna remove all the germs, it just removes most of them, and it uses up 70 grams of bleach stone. Let me actually check. At the moment we have a grand total of 6 tons of bleach stone. It would last for a while. We're now almost at minus 90 degrees, so just 100 degrees to go. This kind of makes me want to expand the base even more, maybe expand the tubing system. By the way, look at the drills, they dug out everything, but I'm not convinced this is really worth it. My duplicants are fast as well. So more digging work for you guys, thank you very much. If you remember, we have tons and tons of steam down here. I'm just letting more and more water drop down in order to level out the temperatures. We already have huge amounts of it. But I'm wondering if still somewhere heat is leaking through. I don't think so at the moment, but it could very well be that we need to insulate this with a double layer here, just to be sure. Though this stuff is also extremely hot here. Maybe there is another gap on the other side. This would be horrible. Maybe we should just go ahead and check it out. Gonna make my way over here a little bit, just dig this up right there, in order to uncover more of the map. Another beauty mistake we could think about is this pitcher pump here. The duplicants always have to get wet in order to grab some water, and we could easily avoid that. However, we would probably have to bring the pitcher pump somewhere else. And what we would want to do is set up a little pool just beneath it, supply it with just one tiny layer of our water, and they wouldn't have to get wet anymore. I'm gonna make a note of that for the next episode. Minus 160. Okay, just 20 degrees to go. We're almost there, guys. At the moment it seems as though the base is actually running quite smoothly, even without my intervention every now and then. Uh-oh, I did not read tooltips. Ceases to function when temperatures fall below minus 173.2 degrees. Come on, it's just 10 degrees difference. Don't do this to me, game.
Disappointed!
Yeah, imagine my face when I read on the internet on the same website I got the information from that the information might be outdated. We are not going to create liquid oxygen today. I considered making carbon dioxide liquid, but its heat capacity is so low, it's just not going to be worth it. So we're going to take the best liquid we have at the moment, that we can get to the lowest possible temperature, and that is going to be petroleum. petroleum can get up to minus 57 degrees while the oil only to minus 40. So instead of liquid oxygen, we're gonna make another cooling chamber, this time with petroleum at a far lower temperature. We could then even think about exchanging the entirety of this loop so it actually goes through the petroleum tank. We're also gonna have petroleum in the pipes themselves. This would allow us to use our current cooling system to cool down the entirety of the base. We could set up a bunch of lamps, it would be really nice. But yeah, that is the new plan. So just give me a couple of seconds. I'm gonna rearrange this room. I'm probably gonna make this a little bit smaller, this chamber a little bit bigger, and we need to implement a way to get the petroleum here. So let me just go ahead and do that. I'll be right back. Alright, we're back, and as promised, I filled up this room with petroleum. We are just about to have this completely full. I wasn't cooling anything during this process, so we have a quite cold hydrogen room, and this petroleum room on the other side is around 50 degrees. As I was building this and waiting for it, the oil actually ran out, so I decided to dig a little bit around the oil biome, set another liquid pump up here, and now I'm actually also pumping up the water, polluted water, and everything else that's been gathering down here. For instance, we still have some brine. Everything is now going upstairs. Here it is being sorted out. The oil is going where it's always been going, and everything else is going all the way up into another chamber that I've built, so I can already collect all of the liquids around the world and then use them to process. So that is working wonderfully thus far. I think I might need some more ladders to be able to access everything. However, it's all about cooling down the petroleum to wrap up the episode. Definitely want to have a look at the temperature overlay as we do this, but the thermo sensor, I set this to minus 60 degrees, and of course we want to send a green signal if the degrees are below that, so the door is going to open. Right now it is shutting down. No, don't disable this, I want to see the temperature changes. Oh, holy cow, the hydrogen here is fluctuating incredibly. I guess we can see it in this tile. There's definitely a lot of temperature transfer going on. Wait, minus 60 degrees of course is too much. I don't want to freeze it. No. Nathan, what are you doing? Let's do minus 50 degrees instead. Nice round number. Well, I decided we now finally have enough liquid in here, and you can see this is gonna take a while in order to cool this down. But as soon as we have it at the desired temperature, we should be able to use it as our main cooling loop for the centralized power system. I would say with that out of the way, we're gonna wrap it up for today. Thank you so much for watching, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. Have a great time and see you in the next one. Bye bye.